My beloved child, Archangel Michael says, something is shifting around you right now, and the decision you have been postponing is closer than you realize. There is a path opening in front of you that will not remain available forever, and the next choice you make may determine which version of your future you step into. Stay with this message until the end, because what appears to be a small decision may actually be connected to a much larger transformation waiting to unfold in your life. You have been standing between an old chapter and a new beginning, carrying memories from yesterday while quietly sensing that tomorrow is asking something different from you. A part of you already knows that certain habits, attachments, environments, and patterns cannot follow you into the life you are trying to build. The strange feeling in your heart is not here to frighten you, but to awaken your attention before you move forward. There is a moment approaching when you will have to stop waiting for perfect circumstances and finally choose what matters most to you. You may notice an opportunity, a message, an unexpected conversation, or a sudden change that seems ordinary on the surface but carries enormous meaning for your next chapter. The moment will require clarity because staying undecided will also become a decision, and that decision may keep you standing in the same place. You have already survived seasons that once seemed impossible to survive, and that strength has prepared you for what is coming next. The version of you entering this new chapter is not the same person who endured everything that happened before, because every disappointment taught you something, every delay strengthened your patience, and every ending revealed what was never meant to remain. Now your destiny is calling for movement, courage, and a willingness to release what no longer belongs beside you. Type Amen 111 if this message resonates with your heart. My beloved child, there is a reason certain doors have refused to open no matter how hard you push them. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection towards something that fits your future more naturally, and the delay has been protecting you from choosing something simply because it was available. You are beginning to understand that not every opportunity deserves your energy, and not every person deserves permanent access to your heart. Something important will become clearer when you stop measuring your future by what you have already experienced. Your past may have taught you to expect disappointment, but your future does not have to repeat the emotional patterns of your past. A new possibility can feel unfamiliar precisely because you have never lived that version of your life before. The greatest shift may begin quietly, without dramatic announcements or obvious signs. One ordinary day may bring an unexpected realization that makes you see your situation differently, and suddenly the choice you have been struggling with may appear much simpler than before. You will recognize that your deepest desire was never about proving yourself to anyone, but about becoming peaceful with the person you are becoming. There is also a person connected to this chapter who may reveal something you did not expect. Their words, actions, distance, or sudden return may force you to see the truth about a connection that has remained emotionally unfinished. Do not allow temporary emotion to make a permanent decision, because your destiny is asking you to choose based on clarity rather than fear. Type Amen 333 if you are ready to choose a better future. For a long time, you may have believed that choosing yourself meant losing people, opportunities, or relationships. Now you are learning that choosing yourself can simply mean refusing to abandon your own peace in order to keep someone else comfortable. The moment you stop negotiating against your own values, your entire direction begins to change. There is something you have been carrying that was never yours to carry forever. Perhaps it is guilt from an old situation, responsibility for another person's emotions, or the belief that you must keep explaining yourself until everyone understands your heart. You are allowed to move forward without receiving permission from people who benefited from your hesitation. Your next chapter requires fewer explanations and stronger decisions. You do not need to announce every plan, defend every boundary, or reveal every dream before it has taken shape. Some transformations grow better in silence because constant outside opinions can make you doubt what you already know inside. Watch carefully for the opportunity that appears after a period of frustration. It may not arrive wearing the appearance you expected, and it may even look smaller than the dream you once imagined. Yet that small opening could lead to a chain of events that changes your circumstances far beyond what you can currently see. Type Amen 777 if you believe your new chapter is beginning. Archangel Michael says, the fear surrounding your decision is not necessarily a warning that you are choosing wrongly. Sometimes fear appears because your mind is trying to protect you from unfamiliar territory, even when your heart knows that remaining where you are has become more painful than moving forward. You are being invited to distinguish between genuine wisdom and the old fear that learned to disguise itself as caution. You may soon reach a crossroads involving your work, money, relationships, location, personal goals, or emotional commitments. The exact form may be different for each person, but the deeper message remains the same: you cannot continue living halfway between two futures forever. One path requires you to remain attached to what is familiar, while another asks you to trust your growth and step beyond what you already know. There is a powerful difference between waiting because the timing is genuinely wrong and waiting because you are afraid of the consequences. Your heart can sense that difference when you become quiet enough to listen without pressure, comparison, or outside noise. The right decision will not necessarily feel easy, but it can feel honest. Someone may try to influence your decision through guilt, emotional pressure, sudden promises, or dramatic behavior. Their reaction will reveal more about their expectations than it does about your responsibility, because a person who genuinely respects your future will not demand that you sacrifice yourself to preserve their comfort. Pay attention to actions rather than emotional speeches. Type Amen 888 if you choose clarity over fear. There is another secret hidden inside this moment, and it concerns the value you place on your own time. You have spent too many hours replaying conversations, imagining alternate outcomes, and wondering how things could have been different. That energy can now be redirected toward building the life that exists in front of you. The past does not need to become your prison simply because it contains important memories. You can honor what happened without continuing to live inside it, and you can forgive yourself for decisions made when you did not have the understanding you possess today. Growth often begins when you stop demanding that your former self should have known what only experience could teach. A financial opportunity may also become connected to this turning point. This does not mean instant wealth or guaranteed success, but it suggests that a practical decision about your work, skills, savings, business, or priorities may become increasingly important. The strongest future is usually built through consistent choices rather than a single miraculous moment. You may also receive information that changes your perception of someone you once trusted. Something that was hidden, misunderstood, or left unsaid could finally become visible, and you may realize that the truth is less painful than the uncertainty you have been carrying. When clarity arrives, do not rush to punish anyone, simply let the truth guide your next step. Type Amen 555 if you are ready to release what no longer serves you. Your destiny is not asking you to become someone completely different. It is asking you to become more honest about who you already are, what you truly value, and what kind of life you are no longer willing to accept. The greatest transformation may happen when you stop performing a version of yourself designed to satisfy everyone around you. There is a future version of you who will look back at this exact season with gratitude. That future version will remember how difficult it was to make the decision, but will also remember the moment you finally stopped allowing fear to control your direction. You may not recognize it yet, but the courage you are building today will become one of the foundations of your future confidence. Someone from your past may appear again precisely when you are beginning to move forward. Their return may feel meaningful because they represent memories, emotions, and unfinished possibilities, but their presence does not automatically mean they belong in your future. Sometimes people return so you can finally understand why the chapter needed to end. The important thing is not whether someone comes back, but whether the connection has genuinely changed. Words can create temporary excitement, but consistent behavior reveals whether a person has actually grown. Your future deserves relationships that bring stability, respect, honesty, and mutual effort rather than endless uncertainty. Type Amen 1212 if you are choosing relationships that honor your peace. There will be a moment when you notice that you no longer crave the approval you once needed. That moment may arrive after you make one small decision for yourself without explaining it to anyone, and you will feel an unfamiliar sense of freedom. It will remind you that peace does not always arrive when circumstances change. Sometimes peace arrives when your response to circumstances changes. Your destiny may also involve leaving behind an environment that has become too small for your growth. This could be a workplace, friendship circle, routine, mindset, or emotional pattern that once felt comfortable but now feels restrictive. You are not betraying your past by outgrowing it. Be careful with decisions made from desperation. A temporary problem can make an unhealthy option appear attractive, especially when you want immediate relief from pressure. Give yourself enough space to distinguish the choice that solves today's discomfort from the choice that genuinely supports tomorrow's life. There is a reason your strongest desires have survived despite disappointment. If something continues returning to your thoughts after you have tried to bury it, perhaps it deserves honest attention rather than immediate dismissal. Your calling does not need to arrive with noise. Sometimes it appears as a quiet idea that refuses to disappear. Type Amen 444 if you are listening to the deepest truth within you. My beloved child, you are approaching a chapter where your decisions will become more intentional. You will begin saying no without guilt, yes without fear, and enough without needing to prove why you have reached your limit. This is not coldness, and it is not selfishness, it is maturity created through experience. You may soon realize that the person you were waiting for was actually yourself. You were waiting for confidence, permission, rescue, certainty, or validation, but the next chapter begins when you become willing to provide those things for yourself. No external person can permanently replace the inner decision to value your own life. Something unexpected may happen after you finally make a choice. A person who seemed distant may communicate, an opportunity may reappear, a blocked situation may move, or a completely new possibility may enter from an unexpected direction. The important part is that you will be emotionally prepared to recognize it because you will no longer be distracted by everything that once consumed your attention. Do not confuse speed with progress. Your destiny can move forward even when the visible circumstances appear unchanged, because internal decisions often happen before external results become visible. The moment you decide who you are becoming, your actions begin changing, and eventually your environment begins responding to those actions. Type Amen 999 if you are stepping into your next chapter with courage. There is a choice connected to your self-respect that may become especially important. You have tolerated situations where your kindness was mistaken for weakness, your patience was mistaken for permission, and your silence was mistaken for acceptance. That pattern is ending when you decide that kindness and boundaries can exist together. A person may be surprised by the new version of you because they remember the version that accepted less. They may test whether your boundaries are temporary, especially if they became comfortable with your constant availability. Your response does not need to be angry. Consistency will communicate more than confrontation ever could. You are also being encouraged to protect your attention. Every notification, argument, rumor, comparison, and unnecessary conversation takes a small portion of your mental energy, and scattered attention makes important decisions harder. Your future becomes clearer when you stop giving equal importance to everything demanding your attention. One of the most beautiful signs of growth is when something that once controlled your emotions no longer has the same power. You may hear news that would previously have ruined your entire day, yet this time you will breathe, think, and continue moving. That emotional distance is not emptiness, it is evidence that you have healed beyond an old pattern. Type Amen 222 if your peace is becoming your priority. There is a new identity being formed through the choices you make when nobody is watching. Every time you choose discipline instead of distraction, honesty instead of pretending, patience instead of impulsiveness, and courage instead of avoidance, you strengthen the person you are becoming. Destiny is not only about what happens to you, it is also about who you become through what you repeatedly choose. You may have been waiting for a perfect sign before taking action, but perfection can become another form of delay. Sometimes the first step is simply gathering information, creating a plan, making a call, learning a skill, saving money, ending a harmful pattern, or finally admitting what your heart has known for a long time. Small decisions can create enormous changes when they are repeated with consistency. There is also a possibility that your next chapter will require you to disappoint someone. That does not make you a bad person, because another person's disappointment cannot automatically become evidence that your decision is wrong. You can care about people deeply while still refusing to build your entire future around their expectations. Your life is not a waiting room where you must remain until everyone else approves of your choices. You have your own journey, your own responsibilities, your own lessons, and your own opportunities to grow. The moment you understand this, the pressure to please everyone begins to lose its power. Type Amen 666 if you are releasing the need for everyone's approval. Archangel Michael says, the chapter ahead is asking for courage that looks calm rather than dramatic. You do not need to fight everyone, announce every transformation, or prove that you are stronger than your past. Sometimes the strongest move is simply walking forward without returning to the same argument. There is a hidden opportunity inside something you currently consider a disappointment. What did not work may have redirected your time, protected your resources, or forced you to discover a skill you would otherwise have ignored. Later, you may realize that the closed door was not the end of your story but the interruption that moved you toward a better direction. Your intuition may become stronger when you stop overwhelming it with constant opinions. Too many voices can make a simple decision feel impossible, especially when every person offers advice based on their own experiences. Listen carefully, gather practical information, and then allow yourself to make a decision that fits your circumstances rather than someone else's life. The next season may also bring a stronger desire for independence. You may want to control your finances more carefully, develop your own skills, organize your life, or become less dependent on people who have not consistently supported you. This independence is not about rejecting everyone. It is about knowing you can stand firmly even when others are unavailable. Type Amen 777 if you are becoming stronger from within. There is a moment coming when you may realize that you have been underestimating yourself. A challenge you once thought was beyond your ability will become manageable because you have accumulated experience, knowledge, and emotional strength without noticing the progress. The evidence will appear when you finally attempt something that the old version of you would have avoided. Do not let one failure convince you that the entire path is wrong. A setback can reveal what needs adjustment, and sometimes the smartest decision is not to quit but to change the method. Your destiny does not require perfection, it requires persistence combined with wisdom. There may be a final piece of information that arrives before you make your decision. It could come through a conversation, a document, an opportunity, a financial detail, or an honest realization that suddenly removes confusion. When that information appears, take it seriously and allow yourself to reassess rather than forcing yourself to remain loyal to an outdated plan. You are allowed to change your mind when new information changes the situation. Changing direction is not always inconsistency, sometimes it is evidence that you are paying attention. The strongest people are not those who never adjust their plans, but those who can recognize when adjustment is necessary without allowing embarrassment to keep them trapped. Type Amen 888 if you are ready to move with wisdom. The countdown you feel is not meant to create panic. It is a reminder that opportunities, seasons, relationships, and circumstances naturally change, and waiting forever can quietly close possibilities that once required only a little courage. Your message today is about awareness, not fear. There is still time to make a thoughtful choice, but there is no reason to keep postponing the conversation you need to have with yourself. Write down what you want, identify what is holding you back, examine the practical consequences, and decide which direction aligns with the life you genuinely want to build. Clarity becomes stronger when thoughts are turned into deliberate action. You may discover that the real decision is not between two external choices but between two versions of yourself. One version keeps repeating familiar patterns because they feel safe, while another accepts temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term growth. The second version does not know exactly how everything will unfold, but it knows that remaining stagnant is no longer acceptable. The moment you choose growth, you may notice that your environment begins to reveal itself differently. Certain people may naturally become more distant, while others become more supportive, and new connections may appear around shared goals and healthier values. Do not force every relationship to survive every chapter, because some connections are meaningful precisely because they belong to a particular season. Type Amen 1010 if you are choosing growth over stagnation. Your destiny is also connected to how you treat your own promises. If you repeatedly promise yourself that you will begin tomorrow, change next month, or take action when circumstances become easier, your mind eventually stops believing those promises. Start rebuilding trust with yourself through small commitments that you can actually keep. One disciplined action can become the beginning of a completely different routine. One honest conversation can end years of confusion, one application can open a new career direction, one decision to save can change your financial habits, and one boundary can transform the quality of your relationships. Never underestimate the power of a choice simply because it begins quietly. You have already spent enough time imagining what could happen if you fail. Now imagine the possibility of succeeding through patience, preparation, and persistence. Even if the first attempt does not produce the exact result you want, you will gain information that brings you closer to the right path. There is no need to rush into something reckless simply because this message speaks about timing. Take action where action is appropriate, seek reliable information where information is needed, and protect yourself from decisions made under emotional pressure. Spiritual encouragement should strengthen your judgment, not replace it. Type Amen 333 if you are moving forward with courage and wisdom. Something beautiful may happen when you stop asking life to give you certainty before you take your first step. Certainty often arrives after movement because experience reveals details that thinking alone cannot provide. You may discover that the path becomes clearer only after you begin walking it. A person who underestimated you may eventually witness how much you have changed. Their recognition may feel satisfying, but it should no longer determine your worth. The greatest victory is reaching a place where you no longer need someone who doubted you to admit that you were capable. You may also receive an apology that arrives later than you expected. Accepting an apology does not require returning to the same relationship, and forgiveness does not require reopening a door that you have already closed. Sometimes forgiveness simply means refusing to allow an old event to control your emotional future. The future you are building requires emotional space. If every corner of your mind remains occupied by old conversations, old disappointments, and old fears, there is little room for new ideas to grow. Release does not mean forgetting, it means refusing to carry yesterday into every tomorrow. Type Amen 555 if you are making room for something better. There is a stronger version of your life waiting behind a decision you have been avoiding. You may have known for months that something needs to change, yet comfort, fear, responsibility, or uncertainty kept you standing still. The important thing is that awareness has now become impossible to ignore. Do not let temporary loneliness convince you to return to permanent confusion. A quiet season can feel uncomfortable when you are accustomed to constant emotional activity, but peace can initially feel strange after chaos becomes familiar. Give yourself permission to experience calm without assuming that something is missing. The next opportunity may require you to learn before you leap. Develop the skill, study the information, understand the risks, create a realistic plan, and then move with confidence. Faith and practical wisdom can work together when your hopes are supported by responsible action. Your destiny does not demand that you know every detail of the road ahead. You only need enough clarity to recognize the next responsible step. Once you take that step, the next piece of the path can become visible. Type Amen 1212 if you trust yourself to take the next step. My beloved child, the decision before you is ultimately about the life you want to wake up to every day. Choose the environment that supports your growth, the relationships that respect your heart, the work that develops your abilities, and the habits that make you proud of the person you are becoming. Do not build your future around temporary applause when your soul is asking for lasting peace. There will be moments when the old life tries to pull you backward through memories. You may remember the comfort of familiar people, familiar routines, and familiar circumstances, even if those same circumstances once caused you pain. Remembering something does not mean returning to it. A new chapter can feel empty at first because the old chapter occupied so much emotional space. Do not rush to fill that space with another person, another distraction, or another temporary attachment. Let the empty space become the room where your new priorities, dreams, skills, and relationships can develop naturally. The decision you make does not need to impress anyone. It needs to make sense for the person who will live with its consequences every morning, every evening, and every ordinary day that follows. Choose with compassion for your future self. Type Amen 444 if you are choosing a future you can be proud of. There may be one final temptation to delay. It may appear as another excuse, another distraction, another person's opinion, or another promise that conditions will soon become perfect. Recognize it for what it is and return your attention to what you can actually control today. Your future is not created in one dramatic moment. It is shaped through hundreds of small decisions that seem insignificant when viewed individually but become powerful when repeated. Every healthy boundary, every focused hour, every honest choice, and every courageous action adds another piece to the life you are building. You have permission to begin again without explaining why you changed. You have permission to choose a different direction, develop a different dream, leave an unhealthy pattern, rebuild your confidence, and create a life that reflects what you now understand. Your past can be part of your story without being the author of your future. And now the message reaches its most important point: the choice belongs to you. No spiritual message, prediction, person, or outside voice should take away your ability to think carefully and choose responsibly, because your life is yours to shape through awareness, courage, patience, and action. Type Amen 999 if you are ready to take responsibility for your destiny. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. There is something powerful about realizing that you do not need another year to become the person you already know you can be. You can begin with one decision today, even if that decision is simply to stop repeating something that has been draining your confidence. Your transformation does not need permission from the past. The person you are becoming will have different standards. You will recognize the difference between attention and genuine care, between opportunity and distraction, between temporary excitement and lasting alignment, and between being needed and being respected. These distinctions will protect you from repeating choices that once cost you peace. Your destiny is not a fixed sentence written somewhere beyond your control. It can be understood as the direction created by your values, decisions, actions, relationships, and persistence. Every time you choose consciously instead of automatically, you take another step toward a future that reflects who you truly want to become. So when the moment arrives, breathe before you decide. Look at the facts, honor your values, consider the consequences, protect your well-being, and then move forward without allowing fear to make the choice for you. The clock is not here to terrify you, it is reminding you that your time is valuable. Type Amen 1111 if you are ready for the life that comes after your brave decision. The chapter closing behind you has already taught you enough to move forward. You do not need to keep reopening the same wound just to prove that it happened, and you do not need to keep analyzing every detail of yesterday to justify choosing tomorrow. Take the lesson, keep the wisdom, and release the weight. The road ahead may not be perfect, but it can be meaningful. There may be obstacles, unexpected delays, moments of doubt, and decisions that require patience, but you will meet them as someone stronger and more aware than before. Your future does not require a flawless journey, it requires an honest one. Someone may not understand your decision, and that is acceptable. Not everyone has lived your experiences, carried your responsibilities, or felt the internal conflict that brought you to this moment. You do not need universal understanding to make a thoughtful and responsible choice. This is the point where hesitation begins to lose its power. The future you desire will not be created by endlessly imagining it, but by taking the next real step toward it. Let today's decision become the first evidence that you are serious about becoming the person you have been hoping to become. Type Amen 7777 if you are stepping forward without looking back. My beloved child, remember this final message: your life is still unfolding, and one difficult season does not have authority over every season that follows. You have choices available to you that you could not see before because pain, fear, and uncertainty were occupying your vision. Now the fog is beginning to clear, and you can see that your future contains more possibilities than your past ever allowed you to imagine. Do not wait for everyone to understand you before you begin. Do not wait for every fear to disappear before you take a responsible step, and do not wait for perfect certainty when what you truly need is enough clarity to move wisely. Courage is not the absence of uncertainty, it is the decision to act responsibly despite it. Your next chapter may begin with something incredibly simple. It could be a message you finally send, a plan you finally create, a habit you finally change, an opportunity you finally accept, a boundary you finally establish, or an old attachment you finally release. Whatever form it takes, let it be chosen consciously rather than automatically. The choice is now in your hands. Choose the future where you respect yourself, protect your peace, develop your gifts, manage your responsibilities, welcome healthy relationships, and allow yourself to grow beyond the identity created by your hardest days. Choose not because someone promised you a perfect life, but because you deserve to give your future a genuine chance. Type Amen 8888 if you are choosing your next chapter with faith, wisdom, and courage. And when you look back one day, you may realize that this was not the moment everything changed around you. It was the moment something changed within you, and that internal decision slowly transformed the way you spoke, acted, loved, worked, planned, and responded to life. The destiny you were searching for was being shaped through every courageous choice you made along the way. Your story is not finished. The door ahead is not a guarantee of perfection, but it is an invitation to participate actively in your own future instead of remaining trapped in old patterns. Step forward thoughtfully, protect what matters, and allow your actions to become stronger than your fears. There will be another sunrise, another opportunity, another conversation, another chance to make a better choice. You are not required to solve your entire life today, but you are responsible for the next step you choose to take. Let that next step be honest, deliberate, and aligned with the future you want to build. This is your reminder that time is precious, decisions matter, and your future deserves your attention. Choose with wisdom, move with courage, release what has completed its purpose.